Good afternoon and welcome to the first of the information sessions for the 2019 Firefighter Recruitment Campaign for Fire and Rescue New South Wales. I'd like to introduce myself firstly. I'm currently in the Chief Superintendent position for Staffing and Recruitment and Workforce Policy and Planning for Fire and Rescue New South Wales. And I have a very enjoyable job, and I've been with this organisation for 27 years. And it's a great place to work, so with all the people around us and the job that we do within the community. I'd also like to welcome to the room our illustrious firefighters out here. You'll be introduced to them throughout the day. We also have a few more firefighters up the back there that are here to assist as well. We also have our recruitment team and health and medical team as well, so welcome to everybody. Thank you very much for attending today. It's great to see you all here, and you're about to embark, if you haven't applied for Fire Rescue New South Wales before, you're about to embark on a journey that's taxing and very rewarding as well. So I appreciate your interest and involvement in the process. To start off proceedings today, I'd like to welcome to the microphone Station Officer William Speck, who will provide the acknowledgement to country. Thanks, Bill.
I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on today, and that's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay mine and our respects to all elders past and present, and welcome everybody here today. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to play you a brief video.
Fire Rescue, can you hear me?
Yeah, fire comms, rescue pump 503, red, single car MVA.
Red east, you're clear to go. Oh, hey, we've got something in there. Yeah.
Got the one person in there, Mark, on the driver's side. I can see that one person. There we go. You happy? Good from here.
Hey, stay where you are.
Just trapped in here.
We'll look after you and we'll get you out of here, okay?
You can come in. Mark's coming in to give you a hand, okay? He'll look after you. Just hang in there.
Hey, Nat. Dave. Okay.
He's got a possible broken ankle there.
Firefighter here's going to support you in, so just listen to him.
Oh man, there's another door. All right, I've got a victim.
All right.
We're here to protect what really matters.
Been a really brave girl today.
Yes. We help anyone, anywhere, anytime.
Chin strap on, protects our neck.
We are Fire and Rescue New South Wales, and we are prepared for anything.
As you can see, our job is not just about firefighting. We're involved in lots of different aspects of protecting and serving the community, and that is one of the key parts that gives us so much enjoyment in our day-to-day work. What we have developed is a strategic plan. It's called the Plus Plan, and it's about the services that we provide now and where we want to be in 5 years' time. So it's setting us up to showcase all the services that we provide for the community. Over the years, we've been heavily involved with our own core responsibilities, but also assisting the SES, the Rural Fire Service, and any other agency or community that requires our support, and that is broad. It involves protecting the environment. We have a role in counter-terrorism. We also have humanitarian response overseas. In particular, we've had a lot of those types of responses over the last few years. We assist with medical response. We also, prevention and education is very important to us, along with our traditional roles of firefighting, rescue and hazardous materials. So, as I said before, you're about to embark on a journey that is a very interesting one. So I'm just going to now show you three very short videos.
We've spent the last 12 months working together across the whole organisation to identify what we want to achieve and what success looks like. Let's go through each part. What does success look like? At the centre of the success model sits the Fire and Rescue New South Wales purpose to protect the irreplaceable. Everything we do to deliver this service to the community. Around this sits those we work with, our people, the community at large, the government and industry. Around this, we have our capabilities, starting with our core capability of prevention and education. We will engage closely with our communities to reduce their risk and increase their resilience to fire and emergencies. We will undertake groundbreaking research and benchmark our performance against international standards in injury and property loss prevention. Plus fire. Fire is and will remain a cornerstone in our service delivery. We will ensure a consistent and professional response to fire emergencies across the state, adopting new technology and procedures. We will benchmark our performance against international standards in injury, property and environmental loss prevention. Plus rescue. As the state's lead provider of rescue services, we will partner with agencies to ensure communities receive a seamless professional service. We will prepare our firefighters to confidently undertake the rescue incidents that confront them. We will develop success measures and monitor our performance against them. Plus hazmat. As the legislated combat agency for hazardous materials, we will be prepared to manage all incidents of accidental or deliberate release that confront us. We will prioritise life, property and the environment in our preparedness and response. We will partner strongly with other agencies to provide the best possible outcomes for communities. We will innovate, evolve and improve our operations to achieve world's best practice. We will establish measures for our performance and look for opportunities to improve our service delivery. We need to continue to focus on these 4 capabilities to ensure we are delivering these to the highest possible standard. But just doing these well won't be enough. Over the next 5 years, to successfully adapt to our changing environment and remain a leading emergency service, we will need to expand and improve on our other capabilities. Plus, protect the environment. We will increase our focus and commitment to better environmental outcomes as a consequence of fire and hazmat operations. We will work more closely with other agencies to improve our contribution to better management of environmental impacts as a result of accidental or deliberate releases. We will put more effort into minimising our own impact on the environment. Plus, counter-terrorism. We will take a more proactive role as a supporting agency, looking for opportunities to improve and increase our contribution in both the prevention and response to terrorism events. We will provide high-quality advice and support to police as the lead agency in our areas of expertise, hazmat and fire. We will explore and adopt improvements based on international best practice to address the evolving threat and ensure a completely integrated approach. Plus, natural disaster and humanitarian relief. We will work closely with our partners to further develop our ability to deploy international and interstate support to those in need. We will improve our flexibility to provide the Commonwealth options for utilising our capabilities and capacity beyond the rubble in lighter, more agile deployments. We will ensure our firefighters develop and maintain their skills to respond to natural disasters and assist other agencies to do the same. Plus, medical response. We will work with Ambulance New South Wales, who are the lead agency, to increase our capabilities in medical response that recognises our increasing role. We will further develop and support our Community First Responder program and implement, along with other agencies, the Community Early Access to Defibrillation program. We will ensure our training is appropriate and realistic and our people are confident in delivering the service. We will ensure we have quality staff support systems in place that reflect the changing role. We have to evolve our culture, how we behave every day, especially towards each other. We have identified the good behaviours that have made us successful, but we have also identified bad and unwanted behaviours that are holding us back. There are some new ones we have to start as well. We are committed to making these changes to our culture for the benefit of our communities and all of our people. Introducing the Fire and Rescue New South Wales Success Model, a model that captures where Fire and Rescue New South Wales will be in 5 years' time. An agency delivering its core capabilities consistently and sustainably across the organisation. An agency that is prepared for anything to protect the irreplaceable. An agency with a strong, inclusive culture. The plus, sitting at the centre of the model and now in our visual identity, represents our commitment to deliver this and increase our value to the community. The plan for how we will achieve this is our Plus plan.
We are Fire and Rescue New South Wales.
We are here to protect the irreplaceable.
We educate the community to help prevent incidents from happening
and prepare them for action when they do.
We train to get it right.
We're ready.
Ready for any emergency.
Anytime.
Every time.
We respond fast.
We serve with courage.
And with care.
And without judgment.
We help anyone.
Anywhere.
Anytime.
We are Fire and Rescue New South Wales, and we are prepared for anything. What do we do? Fire and Rescue New South Wales prevent fires, extinguish fires and rescue those in need. Why is that important? To save lives, property and protect the environment. Why is that important? To reduce suffering and provide a safer world for us to live in. Why is that important? Because all lives are precious. Why is that important? You cannot replace the things that really matter to you, like your loved ones, your home, your memories. Fire and Rescue New South Wales' purpose: to protect the irreplaceable.
Whether you're a firefighter, a mechanic or an admin officer, whatever your title, you play a crucial role in delivering an invaluable service to the community of New South Wales. Each and every one of us together are helping Fire and Rescue New South Wales to protect the irreplaceable.
I hope you enjoyed those videos. As you can see, we provide a very diverse service to the community, and as such we aim to have a diverse range of employees, not just firefighters but people that work in support areas of the organisation. It's critical to our overall the service that we provide, because without being able to keep the trucks on the road, we can't get in those trucks to respond to those important events that we go to. So that's just one example of the background services within the organisation that are critical to our ongoing operations. The next point I'd like to touch on is our Fire and Rescue New South Wales values of respect, integrity, service and courage. They are closely aligned with the New South Wales Government sector core values, which are integrity, trust, service and accountability. So if I focus very briefly on our 4 core values, the respect is for your workmates and colleagues, and also for the people within the community that we assist. Integrity, one example of the integrity is in decision making, in recruitment processes. In everything we do, we want to be known as a service that has a strong core of integrity. Service we provide to each other and also to the communities is really important to us. And courage comes, I suppose people tend to look at that a little bit like as far as the operational aspects. You know, going into a burning building, for example, takes some courage. But it also comes around to the ability to have very strong ethics and display integrity in everything that you do. So that's they're really core values for our organisation, and certainly you'll hear more about that along the pathway that you're about to take on. Next, I'm very excited to introduce Station Officer Bronnie McIntosh to the microphone. Now, anyone who's into their TED Talks, you might have seen Bronnie. It's been a much viewed TED Talk that she's currently involved in delivering online, and she's also a Winston Churchill Fellowship recipient. So thanks very much, Bronnie.
Welcome to what will be the beginning of a good and challenging journey for you all to join this great organisation that you're going to hear endless amounts of good raps from us all here. It's an absolute privilege every time I get to speak about the organisation and to encourage more people to join it and be part of this new strategic plan to be prepared for anything and everything. So, as a lot of the videos alluded to, and as Sir said, the organisation is changing. The role of a firefighter has changed dramatically. Traditionally, and back in the day, we went to a lot more fires. People did not want to be firefighters. They were dragged in off the street to become a firefighter. Now you will sit amongst 5,000 to 7,000 applicants for 120 spots. And that's because, as well as it being such a fabulous job, the variety of work that you do and the conditions that you work in are amazing. So, and that's not to downplay any of the intensity, as you saw from some of the videos when you first sat in, of the intensity when fires are happening and the work that you will be required to do when you are responding to fires. But given that we now know how to make buildings safer, we're much more across educating people and preventing fires. We've broadened our scope of work to include much more rescue, more prevention and preparedness, more recovery and resilience things for the community. For example, 3 jobs that I can think of recently that were not fires, but that just were what we do in keeping the community safe. Car accidents, you saw a little bit on there, core part of our role now in rescue, and why we're also trying to attract a diverse range of people with a diverse range of skill sets and even body types, age, gender, to fulfill those roles that are so varied. A couple of examples that I had recently, car accidents where someone, your traditional big muscly guy who was maybe pulled in off the street 20 years ago to be a firefighter when no one wanted to do the job, could not physically fit through the window of an overturned car as we're rescuing someone. Similarly, responding to a concern for welfare for an elderly man who had fallen and broken his hip by falling out of bed, and actually laid there for 2 days until his family could raise help. When we got there, we couldn't get in. We go to a lot of these kinds of calls, assisting ambulance and concern for welfare. We had to send our smallest firefighter down through the roof cavity to make access, and then because she could speak Italian and had this cultural competence, she was able to interpret to the casualty and with his family to provide a really good outcome for him. And another rescue situation, which is not really across the minds of many people unless they've been in the fire brigade, any person that's entrapped by something or in something becomes a fire brigade job. We work in conjunction with the ambulance and police, but because our fire trucks are like giant red toolboxes, essentially, we carry the equipment that's required to execute that rescue and render safety. So we will sometimes respond to a hospital emergency room, and I've had a firefighter recently have to hold a man's inflamed penis while another firefighter used air-pressured tools with absolute surgical precision to remove stainless steel rings. So broaden your perception of what kinds of things. Yeah, it's comical afterwards. But as the video alluded to, we are professional in everything. We get to a range of things. We go to people's homes when they are not expecting visitors, sometimes on the worst day of their lives. And it is absolutely a privilege to have that and to be able to do that and make that day better for them. We value the points of difference. That's why we're trying to broadcast the net far and wide for our recruitment campaign. So don't be limited by old perceptions of what a firefighter looks like. Don't be influenced by the firefighter's calendar or Chicago Fire. We perform a variety of jobs. We need teams that are diverse in their skill sets and physiology to perform those varied roles. Statistically, we only respond to fires and other emergencies 7% of our time. The other 93% we spend in prevention, preparedness and recovery efforts. they're all part of being a public safety officer. So whilst you're called a firefighter, your role is so much broader than that. As Sir said, I did a Churchill Fellowship. I've researched, I've travelled around the world to find out how other fire services are managing to adapt themselves and reinvent themselves to cater to a changing world landscape. And they're all doing the same thing. They're making sure that their workforce is very diverse in nature because of the complexity of problems that we're required to solve. When you embark on this journey of your recruitment, pay extra attention to how you will complement our capabilities. What points of difference will you bring to add value to the work that we do as public safety officers? You will call yourself a firefighter, but you will be so much more. Good luck in your next journey.
Thank you, Bronnie. Yeah, I think it's very interesting to hear from Bronnie and her experiences. She's had how long in the organisation now, Bronnie?
16 years.
16 years, and you've been involved in operations, you've been in training roles, you've done some external work for Australasian Fire Authorities Council. Just an example of the many different things you can do within our organisation. So thanks very much, Bronnie. Just briefly, I'd like to touch on what we're looking for, and you'll see some points up there on your screen. I'm not going to run through all of those, but certainly personal resilience is very important. The different types of incidents you'll go to will certainly test your own resilience. And people have different ways of dealing with the different challenges that they're faced with. And certainly health, and it'll be touched on later by Chrissy, I'm sure, around being able to have a healthy lifestyle that will help you, deal with the challenges you may be faced with. Commitment to serving and helping others, ability to engage with the public, very important. And capacity to accept discipline and follow directions. So as a firefighter, you'll be working under the direction mostly of a station officer, but certainly at the college there's quite the academy, soon to be opened academy out at Orchard Hills. There'll be a high level of discipline required throughout your training program. So certainly open your eyes up to that. We have a background as a paramilitary organisation, so the expectation is that that people are well presented and adhere to those directions of the leaders and the bosses in those particular areas. Also, readiness to commit to shift work, including weekends. And we'll touch a little bit more on the roster system later on. But at this point in time, I'd like to welcome to the microphone a fairly new, someone who's early on in their career, Level 1 firefighter, Carmel Frost from Seven Hills Fire Station.
As said, I'm a Level 1 firefighter from Seven Hills in the western suburbs. I joined Fire and Rescue at the age of 42, so midlife career change, and I've never looked back. I was part of the first class in 2017 and I've been at my station for 18 months. Before joining Fire and Rescue, I worked in the health industry. I was working in the Peon Hospital and sterilising technician and in the operating theatres. So basically I went from making sure everything was clean and organised and working in the cleanest environment to what seems to be always filthy, never knowing what is going to happen, and never knowing what the day will bring. I've been asked to tell you what I've found most difficult in the job. This is where it gets real. Honestly, all of it. The experience was challenging but rewarding. I had no idea what I was getting into when I joined. I had no experience in fire. I was in no way mechanically minded, and if you asked me what the job involved, I really wouldn't have been able to tell you except to put fire out, and I had no idea how. I was what my husband called green. I was confident with medical calls and jobs related to people in stressful situations was second nature. But starting a generator was a new concept. So the college and all the training was a huge learning curve. I found it very difficult at my age to go from being really good at my job to not really knowing what I was doing and feeling like I was the only one who didn't know how to do things. I found out I wasn't the only one who felt this way. I've gone from a person who looked at the colour of the house to thinking about how it's constructed now. From not knowing how to start a lawnmower to being able to maintain and check hydraulic equipment. And from driving a Toyota Yaris in the quiet streets of Blue Mountains to driving a massive red fire truck under lights and sirens down to Port Kembla, something everyone should do once in their life. The trainers at the college were amazing, and they never made me feel like I couldn't ask a question or couldn't ask for something to be explained in a way I understood. The 13 weeks initial training for me was a whole new world of information that I never thought I'd know and never thought I would need to know. Believe me, for the first couple of months of the job, every time I got in the truck I was thinking, will I remember what to do? Will I slow everyone down? And what on earth are we going to? But the amazing training I was given at the college and the ongoing training and drills and support and guidance from my crew got me through those first job jitters. It was a comfort knowing that I had very well trained and experienced people backing me up and mentoring me. One of the first major jobs I attended, and this is probably my biggest first job, was a shop fire close to our station. The call came in at 2 AM. As we drove up to it, we could see flames shooting out the windows and lots of smoke from a good distance away. I was overwhelmed, excited and pumped all at the same time. The building was fully alight and there had been an explosion causing one wall to collapse. We got to work and eventually other crews turned up, and after what seemed like forever, we finally got the fire under control and I had time to breathe and recount what had actually happened. Lots of other firefighters came over to tell me how well I'd done and to give me that pat on the back. And I remember going home to my husband and telling him all about it and realising just how much my knowledge and confidence had changed. I've found the support system that is around me amazing. We are always training and going over scenarios to make sure we know what to do and when to do it when the time comes. I've abseiled off the top of buildings, which for me is huge because I used to be afraid of heights. Removed sides of cars and reenacted chemical skills, all to keep our skills up and current. There is always a debrief after every incident to discuss what happened, how we did it, and what we could do next time. This allows us to learn and support each other, and so we can continually improve our skills and our knowledge. As part of the job, you're expected to make sure you complete ongoing learning and training. After the college, you have 18 months to complete modules to become a qualified firefighter, and then you can continue your career on to senior firefighter and beyond. I found it really important to make sure I set time out to complete those modules. And I've found them to have expanded on the skills that we were giving in initial training. A lot of them are work-based modules as well, so you put your work experience into that learning. There has been more than one occasion where a subject I am studying has resulted in a crew discussion / debate, and it's amazing how quickly your study module can become a team event. My decision to apply for Fire and Rescue was the best thing I've ever done. I'm always looking forward to my next shift and wondering what the day will bring. I'm incredibly proud to wear this uniform and what it means. To have children wave as you drive past and to see the relief in someone's eyes when you arrive makes you very humble, but it's very cool. I wish you all your success in your application to join New South Wales Fire Rescue and look forward to seeing you on the fireground someday.
Thanks so much, Carmel. It would have been an interesting drive down to Port Kembla there to the Iron Chieftain, I'm sure. Probably have many police officers, probably a few police officers and ambulance officers in the room, and they'd be aware of the phenomenon called siren mania. So when you have the lights and sirens on, certainly you have the ability to flout certain road rules. The problem is that other people on the road don't always see you or know what you're up to. So the level of awareness when you're driving a 13 or 18 tonne vehicle under lights and siren is it takes a lot of skill and a lot of awareness to be aware of, you know, certainly to be able to see everything that's on the road around you and keep everybody safe. So when I was a lot younger and you know, looking to get into a career, one of my uncles was a firefighter and my father was a police officer. And they used to argue about what the best career would be, and my uncle won out. And why I mention that is because I'm about to introduce firefighter Muhammad Haddad, or Mo as he is commonly known, and excitingly for him, he has a son currently in recruit class who was at the information sessions only last year and is now going through that process. So welcome to the microphone, Mo.
Thanks. Well, good afternoon, esteemed guests, ladies and gents, and potential recruits. As you're aware, my name is Mo Haddad, or Muhammad Haddad, and I'm a senior firefighter attached to number 31 station Busby out at southwest Sydney. I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to be able to come here today and speak. I'll try to give an insight into my time as a firefighter and hopefully encourage you further in your quest to join the best job in the world. My career started as a retained firefighter back in 1996 at Campbelltown. I spent 2 years there before applying to become a full-time firefighter, or permanent firefighter, what was known back then as the New South Wales Fire Brigades. Over the past 20 years, I've had the privilege to serve in some of the busiest stations such as Busby, Lakemba, St Andrews, Campbelltown, and once again I'm back at Busby because I love it. As I look around the room, I can only imagine the vast backgrounds that we have, as was mentioned before by Sir and other colleagues here today: teachers, police, ambos, retail people, nurses, etc. The list goes on. I can also only imagine the preconceived ideas of what you may have of what it is to be a firefighter. Most of what you are thinking is probably close to the mark. However, our job is so much more than fighting fires or jumping into the big red truck and putting out fires. We have so many core roles other than structural firefighting. We also are the primary responsible for hazmat throughout the state. We have majority of the rescue across the state. Rescue in itself is so varied. We assist people in motor vehicle accidents, industrial accidents, vertical rescue, domestic and large animal rescues, and yes, before you ask, we do get called the cats up trees. And if you think that's funny, wait until you get called to a bird up a tree, or nowadays, drones. We also fight bushfires, respond during natural disasters, storm and tempest situations, and other agencies in and any other situation. We also have specialised sections within Fire Rescue New South Wales, which gives all of us, and hopefully all of you, even a greater opportunity to grow your career in a diverse number of ways. We have Specialised Ops, so not only rescue and hazmat as we spoke about earlier, but we have things like urban search and rescue that deploy all around the globe. Counter-terrorism, drone operators, specialist appliance and equipment operators, the list goes on. There are also support sections that include community engagement unit that focuses on how we can build programs for education prevention amongst children, the elderly, the culturally diverse, and many other risk demographics. There's fire safety, fire investigation, and canine handlers. We have ComSafe section who commercially trains external agencies in emergency preparedness and the use of first attack firefighting equipment such as fire extinguishers, hose reels, blankets, etc. Our frontline firefighters are supported by other training and support firefighters who ensure ongoing and specialist training. Firefighters and specialist skills, they are spread throughout Metro and Regional New South Wales. Currently our operational communications are also all manned by permanent firefighters. They receive AAA calls and also dispatch firefighters across the state. This is just the tip of the iceberg. As you can tell, your career aspirations can be endless once you become part of what we call Fire Rescue New South Wales family. If I had three things that I loved about my job, as hard it would be to narrow it down, I'd have to say the camaraderie, the help we give the community, and the fact that we are role models within our own communities. The camaraderie in a fire station is something I haven't experienced anywhere else in my whole lifetime. No matter what station, what crew, what area, we are all one big family. Like anywhere, you always find some people you get on with more than others, but I'll always know that wherever I go, that they've got my back. We always stick together, and we always know that there's someone out there that's always in need. It's also a real honour to be able to help the community when you find yourself in a situation that your station and that your community surrounding it becomes your own community. We often find ourselves confronting someone on their worst day, and it's our job to make sure we are there to protect the irreplaceable, knowing that someone is alive today or somebody hasn't lost their home or their belongings. Our station is across the road from our local shopping centre, Miller, and we have the opportunity to interact with the people there in an informal way, and the appreciation they show us every day is phenomenal. Whenever we put on this uniform, we default and become role models. When you are out there in the community, you are always aware that people do look up to you for guidance and direction. The excitement of people in general, especially children, and the way we look up to ourselves grounds us and reminds us of our responsibility within the community and the role model that we are and we play. I thought about rattling off a few notable jobs I've attended over the years, as I've been to so many. However, when I started brainstorming this talk amongst the crew at a mess room table, we thought of one story, then another one would pop up, another one would pop up. It just kept on going. So when I leave the house every day for the last 22 years, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to expect. It's just the unknown. So I'll end today with my thanks for coming out today to hear a little bit about my story, our story, and hopefully get to see you on the back of the big red truck, and we'll have a chat. Good luck. Wish you well. Cheerio.
Thanks, Mo. Next, I'd like to welcome to the microphone leading firefighter Peter Miller. Peter has recently been successful in getting access to the Station Officers program, so in not too long she'll be wearing the same rank as Bronnie and also as Billy. An interesting part of Peter's career, I guess, is that her husband is also a firefighter, and she outranks him by this much at the moment, so she's got one up on him, but I'm sure it won't be long before both of them are station officers. So thanks, Peter.
Just want to start by saying thank you for making the time and the effort to come out today. I know it's a really competitive job that we have, and the only reason that I think that is because it is so brilliant, and we don't need to sell it to you today. I think you know how awesome our job is. We're just giving you different perspectives. I'm just going to talk to you a bit about my journey, touching on the family aspect. So I started in 2005, and I joined the job like Carmel, not knowing about what would be involved, and I learnt a lot. That was a steep learning curve that first year, but I had so much support. I enjoyed every moment of it. There was not a time where I thought I've been hung out to dry here. So everybody that I've worked with has been brilliant. So if you have any fears about not being good enough or not being mechanically minded, take it on and you will learn so much. So I've been fortunate enough to have had two beautiful children recently. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And this job has given me so much opportunity with my family. I get embarrassed around my friends these days because of the time I get to spend and we get to spend as a family unit. So I'll just tell you a bit about what Fire Rescue can offer you as a family and why it is so special. So if you're a female and you find out that you are pregnant, you notify your manager at the time and you are found alternate duties. So my first pregnancy, I decided to stay on shift work. So I stayed on the 24-hour roster as it was, I think, or maybe it was the 10-14 roster, but I stayed on shift work. And I was able to work at City Sydney Fire Station where I was based in the little relay room which takes the calls and does the switch and finds the keys and does all that work, which still gave me a great lifestyle of being on shift and didn't have too much disruption to my family life. I went on to have a great pregnancy. I worked closely with the health team. And they always touched base with me to see how I was feeling and how the shift work was taking its toll on me. But, you know, I was fortunate enough to have a great pregnancy. After I gave birth, we had 14 weeks full pay, which is the government leave, which is a great time frame. And I was also actually able to add on my annual leave. So I had almost 6 months full pay. And you're able to take that at half pay or however you like. But it's a great time to have with your family, especially with newborns. So my second child, I went down a different route. I decided to try new opportunities. So once I notified my manager that I was pregnant, I decided to step out of my comfort zone and try working in an operational support position. So I joined the health and safety team. And that was a really good insight to see how the wheels that spin behind the faces of the organisation on the front line. So I was working in a team that took in all the injury forms, working out how to minimise those injuries and managing the firefighters that had those injuries. So it was a really good insight to how hard our great admin team work and how much work actually goes on behind the scenes. So there were lots of options for me. So if you are starting a family, and you are pregnant, there are many areas that you can choose to work in or wherever it takes your interest, because we all have a lot to offer, especially coming from external workplaces. You may have skills that, you know, will really help our organisation. So I went down that path, and after the birth of my second child, I took the leave again, my maternity leave. And now coming back on shift, I've found that I have so much time to spend with my family being a shift worker. I cannot, like for example, my children do sport, it's like a sports club, dancing, swimming, and I'm there for them every week, every lesson, except for 1 or 2 every 8 weeks. So I'm not missing out on the things that I value and that are really important to me. My oldest starts school next year, and we've signed up to the P&C. They have us with them 6 days out of every 8, and that's exactly how we want to bring up our family. So if you are thinking of starting a family or you have a family, this organisation will support you, and it is a fantastic place to work. So don't let it hold you back. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Peter. Our next officer to the microphone is Station Officer William Speck, normally referred to as Billy. Billy's been around in New South Wales Fire Brigades, I'd say, around 30 years, Bill? Or,
yeah, almost.
Something like that, yeah. Mostly in the southwest area. He has a great reputation. Just to give you an idea of some of the family connections you'll come across is that he has a brother who's an inspector in Fire Rescue New South Wales. I did the inspector's course with Dirk Speck in 2008, And after that, even though Billy and I have been around similar amounts of time, I got to know Bill as well. So lots of family connections within the organisation. So thanks very much, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Just got a bit of a cold, so you might just have to bear with me for a minute. You have a tissue there. I'm just going to talk a little bit about my career in Fire and Rescue New South Wales, and that's correct, Brendan, 33 years actually, so it does seem like a lifetime, but I wouldn't have changed anything for the world. 19-year-old, joined the fire brigade, completely different then, yes, Bronny, I did get dragged in with a hook walking past the fire station. I must have looked at Bill then. I don't think I've climbed through any windows these days, but anyway, they say a Kulo a year, so it's pretty much spot on. But once you do go through this whole process, you'll start at the college, and it is a paramilitary organisation, and you will have to take orders, and throughout your whole career you'll be taking orders and listening to experienced people, and hopefully one day you'll be giving the orders and talking to people and sharing your experience, whether it be a life experience or career experience. Every day within Fire and Rescue New South Wales is a different day, as you've heard, and you will be learning something every day. Every day is different. You will go away with that day knowing something else. Whether you're talking to one of a crew member or whether you're talking to someone in the community, servicing the community and hearing their stories. It is a lot of empathy in our job, and I think Bronny said 7% of the time we're actually turning out the calls and responding, so that other 93% of time you've really got to get on with your crew, you've got to be a team member, you've got to be willing to accept other religions, other people's beliefs, and help each other out in that and grow with people. You've heard a lot of stories from these guys turning out to all different sorts of incidents, and QF, qualified firefighters after 2 years, senior firefighters after 7 years. Some people like to stay at them ranks, some people like to continue on, chief super ranks. It's all about where you feel and your family life and how you want to go about that. I've just recently done a 6 weeks country relief stint out of Broken Hill. Yeah, that's different out there. Again, it's where you are within our organisation. You could be in a bushfire prone area, you could be way out west where you're on your own. In the city you have 10 or 15 other stations to back you up if there's a big job. Out in different areas, there's no one there but yourself. So you've got to sort of like plan different things, have a look at the situation that you're in on the day. So wherever you are within the GSA, you could be going to a bushfire one day and then a car accident the next, or a hazmat, or doing some fire ed at a preschool. We do quite a lot of training. We try to keep our skills up. We do a lot of service work as well. So we go out and we do a lot of fire education within the preschools. And then we've got fire ed level 1 where we go to another school. Year 1 I think it is, and then fire ed level 2. So it's all about teaching the community. And then I was the Aboriginal Liaison Officer for 12 months. Tried something different just to get off the shift work, and no, I didn't like it. I did enjoy the role. Again, educating the Aboriginal communities and educating Fire and Rescue New South Wales personnel within the Aboriginal communities, how to interact, how to respect each other's beliefs, and how to educate them better to become safer in dangerous situations. As you know now, you're all coming up to the first stage of the recruitment process. You're going to be put under some pressure throughout the whole stages. Now you've come to listen to find out a little bit about Fire and Rescue New South Wales. At the end of it, ask as many questions as you can. There's no such thing as a silly question. But you'll be put under a lot of pressure throughout the pack, where you'll hear about the medical that you need to go through, the exams that you're going to have to go through, and the interview process. All I can do is let you know that that interview process is pretty daunting, but it's there to put you under pressure. So within our job you are put under pressure. You don't know when that pressure is going to arrive. but believe me, you will be put under some pressure where you just don't want to be there, but you look around and there's no one else there. You'll reap it. So it's about building that personal resilience, having that feel, and knowing that's what you want to be and what you want to do. So be sure of that. We'll go back to the respect, integrity, service, and courage. Courage is a bit about going into a fire, but it's about speaking up. If you hear something that's not right, or you see someone doing something that's not right. Integrity, you see someone go into a house that you don't think it's right, or they say something. You need that courage to speak up and show your beliefs. But good luck on your journey, and yeah, enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill, and thank you for doing that stint in Broken Hill. We've got the roster officer over there, Luke Loseby, and we're looking for someone to go to Tamworth at the moment, so if you could catch up at the end of this session, that'd be really good. Billy has been involved, he's actually been instrumental in one of our most successful recruitment programs, the IFARES program, Indigenous Fire and Rescue Employment Strategy, which has provided great benefits to individuals, to our organisation and communities as well. Now, not everyone who goes through the IFARES program goes on to be a permanent full-time firefighter, but they do come out with some qualifications out of that program that are very helpful for individuals as well. So I thank and certainly admire Billy for his work there with the IFARES program. It's been and also Sue McDougall, Manager of Recruitment, also instrumental in that. So congratulations to both of them. I'd like to now touch on the rostering and work arrangements of a firefighter. So essentially, if you're successful in joining our organisation, you'll be contracted to work 336 hours over an 8-week cycle. And we have, our default roster at the moment is a 10-14 roster, 2 10-hour day shifts, 2 14-hour night shifts. And it's platoon based, so A, B, C and D platoon. Most stations are currently working a flexible roster at the moment, which is 24-hour rosters you may have heard of. So a 24-hour shift, 0800 in the morning to 0800 the next morning, then 24 hours off, and then 24 hours on again, and then the next 5 days off before you return to work. Lots of people are enjoying that roster. It's obviously very challenging when you're at work. It's a long time to be at work and away from home. I guess the benefits are having that long stint of time away from work as well. So, but I worked a lot under the 10-14 roster, as did many people here, and it's not a bad roster to be working either. So, certainly wouldn't complain about that. You'll be given a leave group if you're successful, and then you'll take leave. It's sort of a month off after 6 months, and then another month off after 8 months, and that comes around, you know, pretty soon. Sometimes you really need a break. Other times you think, oh, next minute annual leave's hit you, and you're off for another month, but you don't knock it back either. You're quite happy to go and have a little break, so that's good. And firefighters are entitled to 14 by 24-hour shifts of annual leave over a 6-week period. So it's a great pleasure for me right now to introduce the Manager of Recruitment to the stage, Miss Sue McDougall.
Hi everyone, can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. So we've now just got some slides where we're going to go through the recruitment process. So if we can just start at the overview of the process. So there, you can see that there's different steps in the process, but basically you'll be applying online, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about that process. And then there will be some psychometric testing, and we'll talk about in a bit more detail the types of tests, because we have added one more test for this year's campaign. You'll be pleased to know that. Okay, and then part 2 of the gateway is our physical aptitude test, and that will be explained by the manager, the team leader of health and fitness, Mark Gabriel, who's just arrived. Thank you, Mark. And then we'll talk about the different stages of the merit-based recruitment process. All right. Okay, next one. All right. So the first phase, which opens on the 5th of November via our website. So keep your eyes open on the website on the 5th of November. And then you go to our recruitment and volunteering permanent firefighter recruitment page. And then you'll be able to just click here. It'll say apply here. So it's a fairly easy way just to log in. You don't go through Jobs New South Wales. I must reinforce that. It's all just via our website. And the application period opens for 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from the 5th of November, it will open at 9 a.m. And all you need to do to apply is to create a job profile. So when you click on the apply button, you will need to fill out some personal details. Most importantly, to use the exact name that you use on your driver's licence. And I'll explain the reasons why for that as we get further on into the process. And then you will be asked to answer 2 targeted questions. So you're not required to upload a resume or your driver's licence. So you just create your profile and then you answer the 2 targeted questions. And you can go in and you can save your profile, maybe work on your targeted questions over the next week or so, and then you can go back into your application and add the answers to the targeted questions at that time. So you don't just have to apply and straight away answer the targeted questions. You can improve on that up until the applications close. Each question will have a 200-word limit. All right, I must stress that, and we will keep you to that. Only because it's when we get to the interviews, just before the interview stage, where we're going to be assessing the targeted question responses. So when the applications close, we will then be sending out an email invite to everyone who's applied. So at the end of the 2 weeks, the day after, you will receive an email invite inviting you to complete the 3 tests. And you have 4 days or 96 hours from that email invite. So if you get the email invite at 11 a.m. on a Monday, you've got 96 hours from that time. All right? So everyone will be completing that test, those 3 tests at the same time. So that's after the applications close. As you can see on the last point there on the slide, so the 3 tests are called Cognify, which is a new test. It's a game-based cognitive ability test. We also still have the traditional cognitive ability, which if you've applied before is the same test that you would have done in the last 12 months. And remember, there's different banks of questions. So if I'm sitting the test and another person's sitting the test, the questions may be different. It'll have the same level of complexity though. And the other test that we're doing, which we have done in the past, is work safety. All right? So next slide. So as I've mentioned, you just go to our website, and on the 5th of November you go to the Recruitment Volunteering Permanent Firefighters, and then you'll be able to just click here where it says apply online. So it's fairly easy to apply. So our testing provider that we use and we have used for the last 5 years is Revelian. They do have their own website. If you want to go up and have a look, it's REVELIAN. And they do have some sample questions for the traditional cognitive ability test. There's also some sample questions for work safety, work reliability and emotional intelligence, but there's no work sample tests for for the new test of Cognify. So for this traditional cognitive ability test, you can see has 51 questions. It's designed that you don't finish. So some people think, oh, right, you know, I've got to really hurry, I've got to get through all these questions. Everyone has a different strategy. Some people time their responses to the question so that you're not spending more than 30 seconds per question. It is up to yourself what strategy you use. I'm just saying it's designed so you don't have to finish. You get a point for each question you get right. You don't get points taken off if you get a question wrong. Alright? I just wanted to make that clear. So you can see there, if you go to the Rebellion site, there are some sample questions for the cognitive ability. Next one. Okay, so this just is a little short explanation of the Cognify test. So it's like a game. So, you know, there's some problem-solving activities, some maths. It's quite interactive. It's not like multiple choice, so things will be flashing up on the screen, going quicker as you're going through the test. I've actually completed the Cognify test, and thankfully I don't have to apply for another job ever till I retire. But look, if you are used to game-based tests, we're getting a lot of good feedback, and this is how a lot of the new tests are coming out. They will be game-based, moving away from the multiple choice questions. Okay. What you do need to do is just to make sure that you're in a quiet space with no interruptions. If you're, doing it at home, I suggest that, you move away yourself from the family. You do need to make sure that you're in a good headspace, well rested to do any type of test. And that's why we give people, or one of the reasons why we give people 96 hours to do the testing. And there are 2 sets of tests. So over the 4 days, you need to do 3 tests. It would be my advice that you don't do it all in the one day. It is too much for one person to do. They're quite intense, and you do need to be in a good headspace. So this is about the work safety. So the work safety test assesses your attitudes and beliefs towards work safety. There are a range of multiple choice questions, and you get an option of answering disagree, totally disagree, not sure, agree, or totally agree. So it's obviously, it doesn't necessarily talk about or assesses your ability to be brave. It's all about what you consider to be good workplace safety procedures. So but there's more information on the Rebellion website for that work safety test. The work safety test though is not timed. So if you take a little bit longer to do the test, that's no problem. I wouldn't try to overthink it. Now there are some checks in the work safety test, and I'll just note that the 2 checks that the testing provider uses. So it's about trying to present yourself in an overly positive light. So this is where you're answering the question the way you think we want you to answer the question, rather than the way, it's just your belief or attitude towards work safety. And the other check that's built into this test is the Inconsistency Check. So they might ask you a question at number 5 and you answer yes, and on question 25 it's the same question but it's asked differently and you answer no. So that's where there's an inconsistency check. If that happens while you're doing the test, you may be asked, even though you've completed the test, to redo that test. So don't be worried, it will give you another opportunity to sit the test straight away. You'll just get 2 opportunities to do that test. Alright? Next slide. Okay, so after everyone's completed the 3 tests, within about 5 days of that happening, so we're now about 10 days after the job is closed, the testing provider will give us the test results. And Fire and Rescue then assesses who then gets selected to go to the next round of testing. And we pick the equal number of male and female candidates, so that's the highest ranking test scores for each gender, and then they will go to the next round of testing. And once again, those people will be given another 96 hours to do the 2 tests, which is, the first one is emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence, this test is also not timed. So you will have, you can think about some of your answers. There's some pictures, there's faces in this test, there's some statements, and it's all about trying to assess your ability to manage your own emotions at work or other people's emotions, being able to respond to those in an appropriate manner. So we obviously don't want people yelling or swearing at each other in the workplace. So this is all about emotional intelligence. And it's all multiple choice, and as I said, it's not time. Take about 40 minutes. So the last test is work reliability. So like the work safety test, there will be a number of multiple choice questions that you have to answer, with once again those same range of options, with once again those same types of checks. So inconsistency check, and try to present yourself in an overly positive light. Okay. So what happens next is, after everyone's completed the second round of testing, the testing provider will give us another set of test results. So this will have your suitability score, which is a combination of all the 5 tests that you've undertaken. And once again, then those scores will determine who progresses to the next stage. And that's it.
Our recruitment processes are very demanding. 7,500 applicants for around 120 to 150 positions. So it gives you some idea of how complex the process is. Next, I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Mark Gabriel from Health and Fitness team.
So, I have the absolute privilege to talk to you guys about the PAT. But more importantly, as this title suggests, I get to talk to you or convey to you what it means in regards to the health and fitness of a firefighter. I'm having a look through the notes that I chalked up a couple of nights ago here, and I'd suggest that a lot of it is actual tangible information that you can use in regards to what the PAT involves, what your physical preparation might require. The rest of it is all about attitude, personality, the values of the organisation, and it certainly translates to our health and our fitness and how importantly we take it. So before I proceed, probably another thought that we may want to consider before I start working through all this information. Today, last year, or even a year from now, there's plenty of people in this room or outside of this room who can't pass the PAT. So today, they couldn't pass the PAT. And vice versa, there's plenty of people in this room who could pass the PAT. Doesn't necessarily make you a good firefighter. So I've heard all the panel members here telling their own language, their own words, their own stories, reflective of the values of the organisation. They really alluded to this aspect that sort of works a lot in emergency services and the military. It's all about teamwork and whatnot. So I'm already sort of leading you down that path in terms of a message of what's important and why we would take our health and fitness importantly. Thanks, mate. So before I do that, I promise I won't take too long, but a bit about health and safety branch, all those support services. Peter, thanks for the mention. We do try to help out. The ratio is never that good in terms of number of support services to firefighters, but nothing ticks, nobody gets saved unless we're all working together. Okay. So I represent the health and fitness team. We've got Chrissy here from the medical team. We represent the health and safety branch, but more broadly the organisation. Okay. And in reflecting about the manifesto of the organisation that we're putting out there now, the whole Prepared for Anything manifesto, it couldn't be a better manifesto for my team. It sets the foundations and for the principles and the philosophies that underpin everything that my team do day in, day out. We don't just do PATs all year round. I'll give you the tip, okay? It underpins exactly what being truly fire fit is about. And it's not just about smashing yourself in a workout so you're fit enough to put the wet stuff on the hot stuff. I'm defining what it's not, aren't I? And it informs so much of the programs and initiatives that we deliver to those on the job. Okay? So according to my own team and our little manifesto, we like to get together and get our head in the game and make sure we're on track with things. Okay? Being prepared for anything, it means a number of things. So allow me to throw a few comments at you, and I strongly advise you to look past what might seem like a bunch of cliches, because there are some serious messages which I strongly encourage you to take to heart. Okay? Game day is every day. The opposition doesn't play by the same rules. Loss is not counted in points. The aim is to come home safe. We train to get it right. So yeah, we take health, fitness, your safety very seriously. Okay, the PAT is a non-negotiable part of the recruitment process, all about your safety. Okay, it's a 3-year body of work with the Uni of Wollongong, which determined a specific and valid testing battery. It's reflective of the inherent physical requirements to meet today's Fire and Rescue New South Wales response profile. How does it tie in with our values? Respect, integrity, service and courage. Another comment from me, which I firmly suggest you look past a few of the cliches. I serve those that serve their crew, that serve the public. Okay, my team spends most of their time out at stations assisting firefighters to stay fire fit in the broadest sense. Okay, now for any candidate that respects who they might end up working next to, might end up working alongside, who takes their fitness seriously enough so that they're fit enough to, on a bad day, pass the PAT, which means lifting that ladder. It means rescuing a mate on a bad day. My team can serve firefighters well by confidently going out and telling them the next batch that are coming through are fit enough to keep themselves safe, their crew safe, the public safe. So I might just step to the side. There's lots of good information in the videos, and we'll keep delivering some more information.
Stage 1. Reduced visibility search. Firefighting requires firefighters to work in situations where there is limited or no visibility in confined spaces. This task simulates your ability to work in a smoke-filled building wearing a self-contained breathing apparatus, performing a victim search in a dark and confined space. To complete the task, you'll be required to fit a frosted face mask with the assistance of your assessor. The face mask allows normal breathing to occur and will not be connected to an air cylinder. You'll be required to perform a crawling search in a dark and potentially confined space as directed by your assessor. You must be able to wear the mask for the whole search and move forward in a safe and consistent way. Ladder simulation. Firefighting relies on using ladders. This task simulates raising and lowering a 10.5 metre ladder for firefighting and rescue work. To complete the task, position feet shoulder width apart, squat down and with an overhand grip, grasp the bar. Using your legs to lift, raise the bar to navel height. Squat again and move your arms under the bar. Using your legs to initiate the movement, push the bar overhead in one continuous movement until your arms are completely straight. You should be able to push the bar into an overhead position with straight arms in one continuous movement. Stage 2 is made up of 4 tasks. Firefighters generally complete this stage in under 15 minutes. Single-sided jerrycan carry. This task simulates a hazardous materials incident where firefighters repeatedly carry drums, equipment or casualties as a team. To complete the task, grip the jerrycan in one hand, lift it using a half squat and carry it a distance of 195 metres, which is 6.5 laps of the marked 30-metre course. You must complete the full distance while maintaining your balance and perform all lifting and carrying using only one hand at a time. You may swap hands at any time as often as you wish. To swap hands, place the jerrycan on the ground, grip with your other hand and use the squat to lift it before starting again. Do not use two hands at any time. You must not drop the jerrycan, drag it, use any part of your body to support the jerrycan, or use two hands to complete the carry. Stair climb with single-sided jerrycan carry. Firefighters constantly have to climb stairs with heavy equipment to perform their work. This task simulates climbing stairs with firefighting equipment. To complete the task, grip the jerrycan in one hand, lift it using a squat and step up and down for 36 steps. You may swap sides as many times as you like. To swap sides, place the jerrycan on the ground, grip with the other hand and use a squat to lift it before starting again. At no time should both hands be used to lift or carry the jerrycan. You must not drop the jerrycan, attempt to use any part of your body to support the jerrycan, or use a two-handed hold at any time. Rescue tool static holds. Firefighters are required to use a variety of equipment to perform their role. This task simulates the use of a rescue tool in a motor vehicle accident rescue. To complete the task, you will hold a set of simulation spreaders at 3 different heights for 40 seconds continuously, with a 20-second break between each height. Shoulder level hold. Grip the rescue tool as shown. Lift it using a squat or lunge. Ensure you have a firm grip and stable stance, then raise it to hold at shoulder height and parallel to the ground. Ensure the tool does not rest on any part of your body and hold it static for 40 seconds. Return the rescue tool safely to the ground using a squat or lunge to lower it. There is a 20-second rest before the next lift. Waist level hold. Grip the rescue tool as per the first hold and lift it using a squat or lunge. Ensure the tool does not rest on any part of your body and that your arms are bent and not locked straight. Hold it parallel to the ground at waist level for 40 seconds and then return it safely to the ground using a squat or lunge to lower it. There is a 20-second rest before the next lift. Knee level hold. Grip the rescue tool as per the previous holds and lift them to knee height. Ensure the tool does not rest on any part of your body. Position the shears parallel to the ground and hold for 40 seconds. Return it safely to the ground using a squat or lunge to lower it. During this task, you must not drop the shears or rest them on any part of your body. You should hold the shears parallel to the ground. Repeated hose drag. This task simulates the prolonged dragging of pressurised hose during a bushfire. To complete the task, grip the handle attached to the hose and place the hose over your shoulder. Drag the hose forward, ensuring that your torso is upright and facing forward for the full 30-metre marked course. At the marker, hand the hose to the assessor and walk back to the starting point. This is repeated 5 times. You may swap shoulders with the hose as many times as you wish. If you fall, turn your body side on or face backwards when dragging, you will be stopped and asked to begin that lap again. Your time will not be reset, but will be paused while the hose is repositioned. Remember, should you finish early, you'll not be able to commence stage 3 before 15 minutes. Should you take longer than 15 minutes, you'll be able to progress directly into stage 3. Stage 3. Stage 3 is made up of 2 tasks. Firefighters generally completed this stage in under 2 minutes. Fire attack simulation. Sometimes when fighting a fire, there is a thick layer of smoke in a dwelling. This task replicates dragging a hose while keeping below the neutral plane, the smoke layer, in a structural fire. To complete the task, grip the handle attached to the hose and lower your entire body into a crawling position below the 1.25 metre height marker. Advance forward for a distance of 30 metres, which is 1 lap of the marked course. If you exceed the height, turn your body side on or face backwards when dragging, you will be stopped and asked to begin again. Your time will not be reset, but will be paused while the hose is returned to the start. Firefighter Rescue. This task simulates rescuing a firefighter from a structural fire. To complete the task, squat or lunge down, grip the harness straps and move the back plate into a vertical position. Using your legs to lift, stand up while safely lifting the back plate off the ground. Lower yourself below the height marker of 1.55 metres and move backwards for 10 metres, keeping the back plate off the ground. You may stop to adjust your grip, however you must stay under 1.55 metres and ensure that the back plate is off the ground before you continue. If you exceed the height, fall, drop the back plate or drag the back plate along the ground, you'll be stopped and asked to begin again. Your time will not be reset, but will be paused while the back plate is returned to the start.
So those videos probably give you 99% of what you need to actually do on the day. We're very shortly going to get talking about physical preparation and whatnot. A couple of other messages to come after those videos is, I don't like the word simulation at all. There's nothing about the PAT test that actually is a simulation. It is essentially a raw horsepower test to see that you have the physical aptitude, as the name suggests, that you can actually then carry over into the recruit class and then acquire the skills to do those tasks. So don't overthink the word simulation throughout those videos is a message I want to give you. This slide reiterates a lot of the points I've already said in my own words. Previous information on videos, for those that are detail nuts, feel free to have a look on those. We've shown previous videos before. There's probably only one quote that I want to draw from that. It was then Inspector Phillips quoted right after he'd finished doing the PAT, roll camera on him. He took a while to get the words out because he was a bit puffed, but he said operational commanders can be confident that those that have completed this PAT are fit, strong enough to do the job. So let's talk about training, your training and general preparation. Now, to more effectively talk about the FireFit training guide, I'm going to clarify one thing, and that's what I mean by a bad day. So when I say a bad day, I mostly mean physical, but I certainly acknowledge for some that a bad day could be a personal or a psychologically related thing. There's many layers to that phrase. And we certainly don't want you to be a robot. On the contrary, I'll come back to that in a minute. What I mean is, if your current maximal effort in your training, think about all the physical attributes you'll require to get that PAT test done. If your current maximal effort gets it done most of the time, it's probably not good enough. You might not pass the PAT on the day. Okay, those that are into the big 1 RM lifts and those types of things, you can nail it one day, you can have a bad week, and you can be way off the mark on another day. Okay, so you need to improve the relevant components of your fitness where you're falling short. Strengthen the weakest part of the chain, the weakest link. Okay, everyone who completes the PAT is going to walk away with a different kind of burning feeling. If you've got the burning lungs, you might have every other physical attribute nailed. You just got to work on raw horsepower in the engine, cardiovascular fitness, in the context of a hot load carriage based task. It's not a beep test. Okay. You might have good old-fashioned burning in the legs. For 17 minutes of the PAT, you're constantly pushing your legs into the ground, applying force into the ground. You might have a really solid squat, lunge, whatever, but sometimes that leg endurance might need to come into play and need a bit more work as well. The arms, the forearms might burn. Each task on its own. Nobody likes, I don't care how big your guns are, nobody likes to hold a 19 kilo dumbbell for 40 seconds like that. It hurts, it's ischemia, and you have that burning sensation. But you've got to put it in context that before you even do that task, you're probably holding a jerry can of various weights with all the weight on your person. You're holding it for about 3 minutes, so it's all about holding that bicep curl after gripping onto the various load carriage tasks as well. You might find at the end of the pat, you just absolutely wrecked and twisted in your core. That's where the core strength, the actual transfer of strength between top and bottom is important. We've seen many people over the years, particularly in the overhead press task, they got rock solid here, nothing in between. The force can't transfer. Okay, you might see us at different information days and that we give a few tips on core strength there as well. Okay, good old shoulders, back, neck, arms, just absolutely hurting. That might just be good old fashioned overhead strength that you need to work on. There's a few things, there's lots of layers that you might like to look at, but they're the most likely components of your fitness that you need to address. And they're addressed in this guide, okay? With resistance and cardiovascular training programs relevant to the work that you do on the job, okay? The principles that you'll see when you work through the document are, it's all about strengthening and conditioning your body to deal with all of these three attributes in combination. The fact that you've got a lot of heat building up underneath the turnout gear, that's the metabolic heat's not getting out, okay? You've got to deal with all of that load carriage, carrying heavy gear, and you're being puffed at the same time, okay? So you can't isolate each of those things. I don't suggest you just sit in a sauna or you just do a good old-fashioned beep test at level 12 or something like that, or just pick up a very heavy weight. Hopefully you guys are understanding what I'm alluding to there, okay? Again, previous information nights, we've got firefighters on videos that we've shown there that said, well, the beep test is gradual. It takes you plenty of time to get up to that 9.6 of the old beep test. What we know from all of the simulations in that body of work with Uni Wollongong is after about 3 minutes into the pat, the average punter's heart rate gets to about 160 beats per minute, and it'll hold it throughout the whole test. Okay, so the engine's working, it's just hot, and it's carrying heavy stuff. That's why the engine's working. So, a couple more things you want to note in regards to this guide. It outlines where you need to be at and how you need to get there. So, for example, if raw strength is something that you need to work on, I'd humbly suggest your worst day needs to be well over a 40 kilo strict press. Not a push press, not a thruster or anything like that. You can't accelerate the bar between here and here, okay? So, what's important in that training guide is it sets the foundation or the training blocks that are going to help you get there if you're somebody that needs to work on those extra attributes, okay? But a couple of other things to consider in your preparation. Can't is very different to you can't do it yet. Okay, big does not equal strong. Big definitely doesn't equal strong. I know people half my weight that can lift more off the ground than me. They've just got lots of training years under their belt, if you follow me. And it's definitely not a bodybuilding guide. So one thing we've seen, this PAT's been in place since 2013. One thing we've seen is we get a lot of applicants show up and they're just smashing themselves with those high intensity workouts in the gym. Often having every second one of those workouts off, having a good day's rest and maybe focusing on some bigger lifts is exactly what they need, rather than just doing the high repetitions or lots of volume work, which is all about hypertrophy of a muscle. It doesn't necessarily make it strong. And the only final comment I'll put on the training guide is that just because you do it doesn't mean that you're going to pass the PAT. So to bring the point home, this guide also embodies all of the 5 fit principles behind what my team provide to firefighters every day on the job. The whole prepare, fuel, train, recover philosophy. Let me put a few words around it to help you understand where you might want to be at with your preparation, okay? Quality training is about being the opposite of a robot. It's monitoring and listening to your body and not just executing a workout because some cookie cut program you got off the internet said you need to do your session on that day, okay? Is your training or other life priorities constantly breaking you down? Where does the adequate fueling, rest, which might be just a good old-fashioned night's sleep, and recovery help your body adapt to what you're throwing at it, okay? Stress is stress. It doesn't matter whether it's coming from your workout, from work, or from life. The rest and recovery piece, the preparation piece is really important. Knowing about these principles and programming, as per the guide, is different to reading them. It's different to sort of living them and embodying them, okay? I'm going to quote somebody I've seen in the last couple of years, said, I've read the guide, but what exercises should I be doing? It's all in there, okay? Anyone in sort of the exercise science, strength and conditioning industry will know exactly what it's all about. The whole structure, the training blocks, the different main movement patterns, they're all in there. Prepare well by seeking further assistance where you need to. So at the PAT, I'm just going to play karaoke on this slide. You need to provide a current medical certificate. It needs to be valid within the last 6 months. Okay, and it has to come from a medical doctor, not your physio or something like that. Okay, you do have to wear exercise clothing on the day. Don't complicate what that talk may entail. No singlets. Those turnout gears get used for, I think, 9 days. We're out there, Mr. Cox. Yeah. Come well hydrated. Bring your own water. Okay. You must do a PAT familiarisation session. A lot of the themes that I've been throwing down here we'll get to when we're out there as well. You can't do your PAT familiarisation, which is essentially a safety briefing, and your PAT on the same day. So the PAT hasn't changed since 2013. My team in the permanent campaign have seen about 3,000 people progress to this stage. Okay, it's the same standard. It doesn't discriminate against anyone. The only thing it discriminates on is your fitness, right? Countless applicants have failed. I'm going to give you an absolute ballpark, but about a third of applicants will fail, show up to the PAT test. But back on that point of attitude, we're out there trying to bring quality information to recruitment, trying to assure these guys that the guys working with them are fit enough and have the right attitude. If you show up, there's probably 7,000 or 8,000 people who weren't invited, so have a good crack. And even if you don't get it on the day, learn from the experience. The best way to learn how to pass the PAT is to be invited to it and leave it all out there. You either pass or you fail. There's no ranking. It's all designed about doing it at your own sort of walking pace. It's all about the effects of the heat or the load, whether that slows you down, okay? No one that has failed the PAT has ever progressed to interview, okay? Passing the PAT just means you may be considered for interview. I don't envy all the other steps in the process, but there's plenty of potentially good firefighters in the process. We've only got a limited number of seats. So do have a good crack. Good luck with your preparation, and I'll welcome any questions afterwards.
So as Mark has said, only people who pass the PAT will progress to the next stage of the recruitment process. And this is where we get into the merit-based recruitment process stage. So, as I said, when you applied online, you have to answer 2 targeted questions. So if you pass the PAT, we will then look at anyone who passes the PAT will have their targeted questions assessed by panels. We have 5 panels, 2 people on each panel, and the panel of 2 will look at approximately 60 or 70 applications. We do have quite a strict methodology in terms of how those questions are assessed. All the panels are briefed by myself before we start. We go through a couple of applications together as a large group, and then we split up into panels of 2, and then we assess those targeted questions responses. Each panel member has to write down notes and write down their score in terms of the targeted question responses. And then, of course, once again, those targeted questions responses are ranked. So this is the merit-based process. So then we come together as a big group. So each question, as I said, has a 200-word limit, and the panels will be looking at the question. So the questions that we asked last year will not be the same questions this year. Oh, okay, we've got to think of something new, but it will be something around, you know, your attributes as a person, what you bring to the job, you know, whether you're community-minded, and also, you know, about diversity and inclusion, because as you can see, that's where we're heading in terms of our Plus Plan strategy. So the targeted questions, we did that for the first time last year, and from a candidate's perspective, you might think it's another, you know, onerous task to do, but what it does do, it allows us to look at you as rather than just a test score, because prior to last year, for those people who passed the PAT, we went back into the online psychometric test results to determine who was going to get an interview. And we didn't think that was entirely fair. So that's why we introduced the concept of the targeted questions. And for those people who applied for a New South Wales public sector job, any job, now you have to answer 2 targeted questions. So we want to make it more in line with our government sector legislation. So after your targeted questions are responded to, the next stage now in terms of a candidate, we're going to split up for the first time this year the online verification process and the interview. And the reason why we're doing that is because it's quite onerous and daunting from a candidate's perspective. You know, you're coming for an interview, sometimes we can be delayed in terms of our time. You also have to do an online test on the same day. So you could be in our headquarters for about 2.5 hours. You know, you're very nervous and, you know, it takes a lot out of you. And some people don't pass the verification test. So we felt it was fair to separate those 2 components. And yes, it does mean you need to come to headquarters at Greenacre twice instead of the one, you know, the only time. But we feel that it's better for a candidate just to undertake the test. The test itself will be the traditional cognitive ability test that I mentioned in the first round of testing. So this is where you'll be asked to verify your cognitive ability test results. So it's just the multiple choice questions, it's not the game-based test, you're only verifying on the one cognitive ability test. So it's the 51 questions again, they could be some of them could be the same questions, a lot will be different. And what we're obviously trying to do is to make sure that the candidate who sat for the test at home initially is the same candidate who's retesting. That's the whole purpose why we verify on that test. You might have heard, you know, there's lots of stories and rumours how, you know, people improve on these tests, and this is the one way that we can reduce you know, people who don't have full integrity becoming a firefighter. So we take that very seriously. So you will be advised after that day whether you have verified or not. If you don't verify, then you won't be progressing to the interview stage. It's quite clear on that point. Okay. So at the interview stage, it's the same process that we used last year. We had 5 panels of 2 people. Each panel is made up of a male and female. Each panel has an operational person on the panel with either a member of the recruitment team or another non-operational personnel. We also invite a member of the external community to sit on our panel. And we're having that same person sit on this panel for this year, which is good. And we do that because we want to continually engage with the community. And this person is a member of a very high-profile Muslim community. So we're, you know, obviously trying to promote diversity in terms of our candidates and people with different cultural backgrounds. So each panel will ask you 1 question. So you ask 5 questions and you are given 5 minutes to answer each question. My advice is that you have some pre-prepared examples written down that you remember. We don't ask questions about firefighting, all right, because we're going to train you in that process. So if you have a look on our website, I suggest you read the interview guide that tells you and gives you some examples of some of the questions that we may ask, how we assess each question. We have a very strict scoring methodology. We do use the STAR method in terms of how we assess the questions. And, you know, we use behavioural-based interview questions. So if you Google behavioural-based interview questions, And you might, see some examples, for example, on teamwork. These are some of the questions that we would ask. Okay, next slide. Okay, so at the completion of the interviews, once again, because it's a merit-based process, we do need to rank the candidates. As I said, each panel scores their candidate, and then to progress to the next stage, the minimum score is 26 out of 50. All right, so 26 out of 50 because there's 5 questions, and each panel member scores their question out of 5. And we obviously look at the highest scoring male and female candidates, and they will then progress to the next stage of the process, which is medical. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sue. Now I'd like to introduce Miss Chrissy Strickland to the stage to talk about the medical assessment process.
I'm probably the oldest person here actually doing this, but I want you to be really impressed that I'm not using paper. My name is Chrissy Strickland, and I'm the acting team leader of Health and Medical with Firefighter Rescue. I've been with Hugh Gart with these guys here for 4.5 years, and as you're right, I suppose why you're all sitting here as well, it is an absolute pleasure working for Fire and Rescue. So if you do progress to the medical component of your application, there's a couple of things, some important things you need to know. There's no definite list of medical conditions that which prevent you from applying for a permanent position as a firefighter. But we assess people on a case-by-case basis. But we are concerned about conditions carrying a risk of sudden incapacity or impairment. Conditions that could affect your functional capacity to perform firefighting tasks, or conditions which will be aggravated by firefighter duties. Conditions of firefighting are unique, and the cardiovascular, physical and psychological demands of the job are high. Fire and Rescue has a duty of care to individual firefighters, their colleagues and the public, and subsequently firefighter applicants are medically assessed to ensure they, 1, can carry out essential tasks without significantly increasing their personal risk of injury or illness, and 2, are unlikely to place others at risk, and 3, meet the medical standards for commercial vehicle drivers. There are some medical conditions which are potentially significant for, say, firefighting. And if you do receive an invitation for a medical and you have one of these conditions, there's a form that comes out called Notifiable Conditions and Essential Functions. It's a document where we will then ask you to read, and it will actually explain that you might be required to supply further information. These would be things like cardiovascular, renal, orthopaedic, respiratory, significant mental health or endocrine. And we don't then ask you to bring documentation like hospital discharge summaries, previous specialist reports, updated specialist reports, operation reports or MRIs or X-ray reports. We don't actually want the X-rays, that's just a bit difficult for us. We don't want to read them, we just want the reports. And if you don't supply this required information to us, it doesn't mean we just brush it off and think, oh, it doesn't really matter, like they didn't bring it, it's not really important. It really is important. We need this information to ensure that you are medically suitable for firefighting duties. Because it's not just like our opinion and we have a look at your shoulder and go, oh, that's a lovely shoulder, or like that knee, that should be great. We actually need evidence-based material, documentation to ensure that you are safe for firefighting duties. You can bring them to us on the day, or you can actually send them beforehand as well. See, under the Privacy Act regarding the sharing of health information, you are entitled to have this information from your specialist or from your GP, if you've already seen a GP or a specialist for this information. Because you can ask this, and if you can't find it at home, it's really important that you get this beforehand. Like, it's not as if and you can't blame your mum, okay, and say, oh, you didn't file them under medical information in the event I get to the medical component of my application to become a firefighter, where is it, mum? You're adults, funny yourself. It's a great idea to make an appointment with your specialist. If you're nervous about something and thought, I've had something significant, go and see the GP, go and make the appointment with the specialist, because sometimes it can take months to get in, and this will hold you back as well. And if you don't bring it and think, again, it doesn't matter, we'll then ask you to go make the specialist appointment, and this will delay the process. And make sure this information also is sent to us at Health and Safety or Recruitment, however you want to get it to us, rather than send it to your GP, because your GP is no longer part of this. So failure to bring this information significantly delays your college class state. An outcome of your medical fitness cannot be finalised until all tests and relevant medical history of documentation is submitted. Without the medical component completed, you can't be allocated a spot at the college. Now, we also ask you about pathology. Now, as soon as you get your invitation from Fire and Rescue to be part of the medical process, go. Okay? It's really important that you have this done as soon as possible, because it takes a couple of days to have, by the time you actually have your medical and then have your pathology and get it sent to us. You also can't claim this against Medicare because it's a pre-employment. It also costs between $400 and $600 for you to have this done, so this is at your cost, okay, as well. So you get to go to your pathologist of choice. Just make sure when you see the pathology referral that this person, the pathologist you're going to, can do these tests. It's an ECG and also a drug screen. The other thing too is don't go to your GP and ask him to rewrite the referral, because then what we do is we get all this information in, we can see your past history of information we have not asked for, and therefore we have to act upon it as well. The Fire and Rescue referral is the one that you use. And don't ask your GP to actually do the medical component, because this is what we do there as well. You fill out a form beforehand. This is all explained to you, by the way, when you get your medical invitation, so don't worry about it as well. It is quite easy, and we can be contacted, as can recruitment, anytime with any questions. And when you come along on the day, you come to Fire and Rescue at the Green Acre at Fire and Rescue as well. And we ask you to wear comfortable casual clothing and bring suitable exercise clothing to change into for the examination, including loose sports shorts, and for females a sports bra. So you bring this with you, but you don't have to come dressed in this. So we had this lovely applicant last year who arrived in the middle of winter from Katoomba, and he actually arrived in the shorts and t-shirt as he was asked. No jumper, because he was asked to bring shorts and t-shirts, so he thought, well, I won't bring a jumper, it was about 2 degrees. It's a good thing we didn't test him for his temperature as well, so don't take that literally. Yeah, that's about it. Avoid exposure. Oh, the other thing too is, on the day for your medical, don't go to a concert and listen to doof music. That makes me sound really old, I know, but I don't even know an example of doof music anymore, nor do I know the Wiggles, so I'm something in between. So make sure you don't listen to that noise as well. The other thing too is, once you actually you get lucky, you get through all that process there, and everything's great, and a criminal check, you will be subjected to periodical health checks. And our duty of care is to maintain the health status that when you came into the job, we need to maintain that health status. Because your job at 21 and your job at 65, we need the same requirements if you are still in operational firefighting capacity. And we are here to support you in every aspect of your health, whether it be physical or mental health. And because you have now become Fire and Rescue and protecting the irreplaceable, which actually includes you. So if you've got any concerns or questions regarding your past or present medical condition, please see myself or Taryn over here after the presentation. Or also you can actually email recruitment, and we can get back to you as well with an answer as well. So thanks very much, and please see us afterwards. Thanks.
Chrissy has been known to ask for jazz hands if the audience isn't engaging enough, so you must be a good group. So if you get to the stage of offer of employment, you'll be a written place offer to successful candidates to join the recruit training program. Success is based on performance at interview and the other components of the recruitment process, as we've been through, and a criminal history check will be completed at that stage. Letters of offer issued approximately 7 weeks prior to the allocated recruit class, so you won't have a lot of time if you get to that stage to make preparations, but unfortunately that's a requirement. Unsuccessful notifications will also be made by email at this point. Very briefly, the recruit training program for people who are accepted is 13 weeks of recruit training at the Fire Rescue New South Wales Emergency Services Academy, which is about to open at Orchard Hills. You may have seen some news on that. It's a state-of-the-art academy that's been in preparation over the last sort of 2 years, so it's going to be an exciting place to be trained with really good props and objects and other things you can utilise to enhance your skills. While you're at the college, you are paid, unlike the police. I have a friend who's currently at the police academy, and they have to fund their own training throughout that time, so it's a great benefit. Graduation will take place after the successful completion of the 13-week recruit training program. Successful candidates will graduate and will be presented with a certificate 2 in public safety by the Commissioner of Fire Rescue New South Wales. It's an exciting day for the people who get that far. You get to invite your families along, and it's a really enjoyable day and a chance to take a breath after some pretty intense training. Just briefly, I'll touch on the candidate support once you were to get through the college, and that revolves around Fire Rescue, of course your own line managers and supervisors, but Fire Rescue New South Wales alumni. It was developed in 2011 to assist with inquiries from people who are interested in pursuing a career as a firefighter. I'd say we'd have a couple of alumni members here, yeah, Peter, in the room, and basically it gives you a point of contact for people that have been through the same things that you are going through and help you, you negotiate your path within the organisation. And I guess lastly, before we head to the Q&A, I'd like to say good luck to everybody who's made the effort to come here, and do certainly wish you well for the process and for your application. Now we will move straight into Q&A, and we've got some of our fine firefighters up the back. We've got, apologies, we've got George and Hugh. Hugh's up there. They've actually got different haircuts today, so we can tell the twin brothers apart, so that's really good. Appreciate that. Thanks for letting your hair grow there, George. We've also got Cameron, and we've got Erin as well. Yeah, there's Erin. So you've got some microphones there, so we'll quickly move into some questions, and we'll get someone with a microphone to you. Hugh, will we start over here?
Hi, thanks for the session. It's really informative. Just a question about the gender-based quota system. Would you not be better to take the best 150 candidates regardless of gender?
We don't work to a quota system. So what we're aiming for is diversity, and it's an objective to increase the amount of female firefighters within our organisation. So we can't guarantee that we'll always have 50-50 recruitment, but it's certainly an aim of ours. I think currently we would be around female firefighters in our organisation, what sort of figure? 7%, which is incredibly low. And you'll notice some other organisations, I can tell you that leading firefighter Peter Miller just recently presented to the first all-female group of female clearance divers. So there's other organisations that are using much more positive or quite aggressive processes to up the amount of females within their organisations. I'd say we're using quite a fairly conservative process to aim for an objective increasing the numbers of females, and what we're getting is the best candidates. So you'll see some of our presentations, you'll see things that come out on social media, you'll see it in normal television as well, just advertisements and things like that, where the hero mythology is being reduced, or certainly something that we want to impact the public, that it's not all about you know, what you may have perceived to be the ideal firefighter in the past. We're not spending every day going into burning buildings and dragging people out. It's just one aspect of what we do, and that's what the Plus Plan's all about. So we're of the belief that we are getting the best candidates for the job right now.
I think though you said 3 times today that, or your various speakers have, that at various points you take the best 60 or so people who are male and best 60 that are female.
Yeah, sure.
So in effect, you know, male number 63 may not, the best people may not get in if they're male, I think.
Sure.
Ronnie
wants to.
I just was going to add something there, and that's something that a lot of people don't know in the community, is that if we had the resources in our organisation to start the process with the interviews and interview all 7,000 of you that apply, then we would probably need to run some targeted programs to assist men to even those numbers up, because the research tells us that women will always interview better. So each of these stages, they're gateways, and they're gateways to manage the numbers going through. So by using the psychometric at the start, it's just an easy way to cull from 7,000 down to say 1,500. But if we had the resources to interview you all, then yeah, we probably wouldn't need to do amended programs to make sure that we got 50-50 coming through that third gateway.
Just for those who've served in the Australian Defence Force, does that
benefit your application process if you have prior military service?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily a direct benefit as far as the process goes, but certainly the things that you have learned and offered to the services yourself as far as that teamwork and leadership and other physical attributes as well certainly hold you in good stead and put you in a good position. One of the things that we have seen through we've been doing some work with the Veterans Employment Programs as well, and I guess if we could give you one tip about if you're to get to the interview stage, to not utilise jargon in that interview process. So we did hear a lot last time of people that were potentially really good candidates, but came in with such a strong military background and fell back on jargon-based responses rather than a generalised discussion. So but certainly there's lots of good candidates that do get through the process from military backgrounds.
So how is the recruit training, how similar is that to, say, military recruit training?
Yeah, do you want to touch on that at all, Mark, or no, in particular?
In terms of physical preparation and...
Yeah, there's a physical aspect to it, there's the teamwork aspect, there's certainly the ability to accept and respond to directions and orders that are given. So, you know, there's lots of generalised benefits of people that are coming from those sorts of backgrounds. The skills and attributes that you bring are really beneficial, but as we've said along the process, we're not after any one particular person from any singular background. It's about having a broad range of people that join the organisations from all sorts of backgrounds. So that's what we're aiming for.
Just to add to that, with that it's a competency-based training, so where it said at the end there is a certificate 2, so when you finish it's a certificate 2, so different to the military, you're actually getting a nationally based competency after you finish the firefighting training, if that makes sense. So it's not like with the military, it's probably specific what you're doing with the military stuff. With the firefighting, a lot of the subjects you do can cross over into different emergency services and stuff like that, because it's a nationally recognised competency that you're getting in. The comment I'll make, and this is feedback from recruits, from a physical, in terms of actual training skills and competency, I'm not the subject matter expert, comment on what you'll go through in the training, but feedback from recruits is on that whole FireFit philosophy. It's hard to keep your fitness up when you're smashing yourself at the college. It's a very physically intense 13 weeks. The days are long, it's hard to fit your session in, hence my message about knowing when to listen to your body, when to have a good rest, when to do maybe a little bit of foam rolling than a maximal lift or something like that. All of that will come out into play in your time of the recruit class.
It's a 7-kilo course.
And sorry, in regards to maybe preference stations, like obviously some places will need more firefighters than other places, so how, like, do you get like a list of 5 preferences that you want to go to, or how does it work, or are you just placed where needed?
Yeah, so we don't actually ask recruit firefighters to put forward preferences. We will ask if they have family members on a particular platoon, and if they'd like to be on the same platoon or the opposite platoon. So in Peter's situation is a case in point where to be on the same platoon as a husband just makes childminding more difficult. So if you're looking to share those responsibilities as much as possible, there's an advantage to be on the opposite platoon. So Brett would be coming home when Peter's going to work. They don't get to see each other at all, but they get to look after the kids. So yeah, but generally you would be stationed to begin with in the CBD area. So I would receive current vacancies from the zone commanders for those areas. And we look to put recruits in mostly quite busy stations. So a number will go to the City of Sydney. You might go to Darlinghurst or the Ashfield zone, that sort of area. So generally inner city busy stations. Down here, please, Hugh.
I just wanted to ask, so the 13 weeks recruiting on campus when you're there, are you stationed there for the 13 weeks, or you go home at the end of each day? So you go home at the end of each day?
That's right, yep.
And the time frame from, say, the start of November when we apply to actually getting to that stage is about how long?
Yes, well that'll be staged. Do you want to address that, Sue? Because that's over a period of time.
Okay, so the first recruit class for this campaign will commence approximately 23rd of April 2019, and they're classes of 16, and then there's further classes obviously, you know, in 2019 and possibly early 2020. So if you get through, sometimes candidates do have to wait a little while before they're allocated a class. For example, from our last year's campaign, we still have recruits that we haven't placed, but they will be placed before all the candidates coming from this campaign. All right, does that answer your question?
Yeah, just in terms of balancing family.
Yeah, no problem.
That sort of thing.
Hi, I've heard that some firefighters might maintain casual or part-time work at other places while they're doing their firefighting. And I want to know, A, is this accepted, and B, is it realistic? Are you going to be able to maintain other things while you're doing your job?
Yeah, so we have a secondary employment policy which requires people to declare their secondary employment, and making sure through our professional standards branch to make sure that there's no conflict of interest that would come about through your work you're doing as a firefighter and also that external work. But there's lots of people that hold trades, or maybe physiotherapists or chiropractors, that type of work, and they will be doing some contract work on their days off. We also have people that are studying as well, and quite heavy sort of study. So George is a classic example there right next to you, and you might want to touch on what you're currently doing on your time away from Fire Rescue New South Wales.
Yeah, I'm still at UTS doing my engineering degree, and it's fitting perfectly actually with the shift work. And on top of that, I actually still hold a second job in the engineering field. So yeah, it's very easy to work around as long as you don't exert yourself too much to the point where it impacts on your primary job. They're very supportive, and you can really get the time to do it.
Yeah, so the expectation there is that, you know, Fire Rescue New South Wales is your primary employer, and you're not taking time off to work in the other role. But yeah, lots of people maintain another job or study outside of their work with Fire Rescue New South Wales. So. Just down here, George.
Hi everyone. Is it possible to do the test, the online test overseas?
Yes, it is possible to do all the online testing while you're overseas. You will need, though, a PC. You know, so you need to go to an internet cafe or, you know, something like that. You won't be able to do it from your phone. Right?
And tablet?
No, I would recommend a PC.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Because you will need, you know, the use of a mouse. It is more difficult to do it without a mouse.
As well as being a firefighter, I would have also liked to join the Army Reserve, and as I understand, they're both jobs where you can be called out at any moment. Is there any conflict between those two jobs, or would I be able to hold both? No, we have lots of people that are involved with, you know, with Army Reserve and other reservist sort of operations. There's a amount of military leave that's afforded to people in those circumstances. Around, it varies slightly, but it's around 140 hours a year, and you're able to have time away from the workplace to contribute in that way. And certainly if there's a deployment that you're requested to be a part of, that is also afforded in most cases. So that's as well as like the normal annual leave, you have 140 hours to serve in military? That's correct. You need to provide evidence, obviously, to confirm that, but yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation so far. Are there a lot of opportunities to specialise for operational staff, and what would those opportunities be, and how soon do they arrive?
Yeah, sure. Would you like to, Peter or Mo, you want to touch on that?
Yeah. So in regards to specialist ops, there's plenty of things you can do. So firstly, you can go into, as I've discussed before, hazardous materials, the rescue section, community engagement. There's so many special ops positions that are filled by firefighters and officer ranks. So The difference between ops support and permanent firefighters as such, or us operational, is you get Monday to Friday, 9 times out of 10, or a special Ross, I think it's 4 days, is that correct? Monday to Thursday, 3 days off, fire safety.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there's a couple of little things. It's very hard to get on the 24-hour roster in regards to special ops. So you can diverse and do things. In order for you to get promoted later on, it's pretty good to have a operational experience as well as specialist ops and get a feel of both non-operational roles and operational roles. Something that I suggest. I've done for 12 months.
Minimum QF to like a certain rank.
Oh yeah, that's right, sorry. Yeah, so you've got been 2 years, is it now, for a QF?
Yeah.
2 years.
Like
So
an apprenticeship. 2 years apprenticeship. And
2 years you get your first strike, and then from there you can advance on and do a specialist ops position. Thoroughly recommend it, it's great. You get to meet some different people that you wouldn't normally meet day to day on the back of a red fire truck.
But even on shift, there's specialised stations, so stations that specialise in hazardous materials work, rescue work. If you look at Hugh, where he's down here now, Hugh's rescue qualified as a result of the station that he's worked at and applied for and done some extra training to be qualified in that area. And his brother George is aiming to be an aerial operator, currently stationed at Darlinghurst. So there's a normal fire appliance there at Darlinghurst, and there's also a turntable ladder truck. So if that's your area of interest, you often get the opportunity to be trained in that, and it's a further qualification you can utilise. Or there's also the comp centre communications, where people go in there and they're no longer, for that period of time, they're not going out on fire trucks, they're operating, receiving 000 calls and dispatching crews and doing the radio comms. So it's another interesting area. We're down to our last 1 or 2 questions here, so yeah.
Thank you. Just curious, you mentioned earlier that there would be no requirements for a resume or employment history. In terms of those of us from defence, records of service, all that sort of stuff, will that be needed to be provided in some way, shape or form?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. If you're invited to the interview, when we invite you to the interview, you'll be asked to bring a resume, as well as any qualifications that you might have, a copy of your qualifications. We'll also ask you for a full driving history record. So it's at that time when you'll present your resume, and that will include 2 referee details as well, because we'll do referee checks if you progress to the medical stage. All right?
One more, just one more.
Hi, you mentioned the new addition to the cognitive testing, the first online test. In regard to the Cognify, do you get a test result immediately after you do it, as you do with the cognitive ability, and what sort of weight are you applying to it? So when you get your first one, the cognitive ability, it will give you a graph of, and you fall in whatever percent. Will you get the same with the Cognify?
Okay, that's a good question. In terms of the candidate feedback reports, we've decided this year no one will get a candidate feedback report immediately. So you will get the candidate feedback report after the testing period has expired. And this is another strategy we're using to reduce people retesting under a different name. So you will get a candidate feedback report. So say you do the test on the Monday and your test period expires on the Friday. So that next working business day, which is the Monday after, then you'll get your candidate feedback report. So in terms of the weighting, the cognitive ability is actually weighted high, Cognify moderate, emotional intelligence high, and work safety and work reliability moderate. So that's, and then through that, the testing provider develops, through a logarithm, and they give us the suitability score.
Excellent. We'll squeeze one more question in. Up the back up there, George. Yep.
Is it often that someone as young as 18 gets in?
Is The age requirement is you just have your Green P2 licence, so you can apply when you're 18 years of age. We have had people who are successful at that age. It's not necessarily about age, it's about level of maturity. So you just need to think, you know, for yourself, do you think you're ready in terms of your level of maturity? As the firefighters have mentioned, and you've seen some of the videos today, some of the situations you will experience are not always pleasant. So it's about being able to, you know, deal with those situations as part of a member of a crew. So that I can't say yes or no, it's really just up to yourself whether you think you're ready. Some people decide, look, I'm going to get my trade background, or I'm going to go off and study and do a few years and then join, or even join while they're studying. Everyone's different.
Thank you.
So we're down to the last 5 minutes here, so I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Really appreciate you attending today. If there's a little direct Q&A now before we have to sort of move everyone out of the rooms.